I know your story kind of starts back in June of 2012. And as a mom, I can't imagine what you went through. So I was wondering if you can kind of take us through what happened then.
Sure. It was a typical day working, and I got a phone call at work, and it was from LGH, but I thought it was just one of my tenants that had an issue. And so I was kind of surprised that they interrupted me out of a conference, and I went out, and it ended up being the hospital telling me to come immediately, that my son was in a bad motorcycle accident. I was just shocked. You just don't ever expect it to happen to you. So I immediately jumped in the car and drove like a maniac, and it was, just a complete blur getting there. I went up to the desk, and they said they had to wait for the chaplain. It was immediately, I knew, like, my heart sank. But meeting with the chaplain, they told me, the severity of Evan, and it was really tough to hear that, he definitely had a brain injury, broken ribs, a broken femur, broken wrists, and just internal bleeding, so it was in bad shape and really needed to be rushed into surgery. So I got to see him for a brief couple seconds before they took him off, and life really changed at that moment. You hold your kids so dear to you, and just nothing is ever going to happen to your kids. So it was a waiting game for the next 2 days. Basically, they had to open his skull to kind of relieve the pressure, and just waiting to see if there were signs, and just praying every day, just praying, and calling on all my friends and family to come and sit with us and pray. But unfortunately, they gave us the news that, with the surgery, he probably wouldn't be the same even if he recovered. But after, a lot of time, they did a couple different tests, and they did say that he was brain dead. So at that point, your life kind of ends, but you need to go on. I had 2 other children and needed to be a good support to them. And that's when we were introduced to Gift of Life. And Gift of Life came, and they were just very, very gracious and understanding of what we were going through. And asked the question, would you like to donate his organs? And to me, it was absolutely 100%. Why wouldn't I? I want his heart to be beating in somebody else's eyes to see somebody else. So we talked it over amongst our family and his dad, and we agreed that that's what was going to happen. So the next day was considerably a big change, where they were in and out. We stayed with him the whole time. They were in and out taking different blood and different tests and so forth, because the people that are waiting for the organs, they have to be very specific with the blood types and very specific with the organ size, and there's so much that goes into it. But then the next day, the doctors flew in that were going to take his organs, his gifts is what I call them, and we said our goodbyes. Very tough time in life.
He was only 19 at this.
He was 20, a month shy of being 21.
Do you have a list of the people that received the organs, and you actually corresponded with some of them? Mm-hmm. Do you want to tell us about who those people are?
Sure. His heart went to a man in his 50s, in his 30s. His liver to a woman in her 30s. His left kidney to a man in his 50s. His pancreas and right kidney to a woman in her 50s. His lungs were recovered. They were sent on to medical research because they were a little too far deteriorated. He donated bone that allowed 50 to 100 patients to be treated. Many, if they had a limb issue or a joint issue, was able to give his skin as well for like women with breast cancer or burn victims. And his corneas restored the sight of a 22-year-old male and a 94-year-old female. So that to me was amazing. And then at that time, maybe a month or 2 after, I was able to write a letter and received letters from the recipients. And there was one in particular, the liver recipient. A young mother had chronic liver issues from being a child. And, her and her husband, had this whole life ahead of them. And then she got Evans, and it was a perfect match. And so we were able to meet with her, and even ran in the Gift of Life 5K, which was awesome. And since then, she now has another son, and it's neat to see them continue on. And we keep in contact on Facebook, and it's neat to watch somebody be able to continue on.
So how does that process work? Was Evan, I know when you go to get a driver's license, they ask you if you want to be an organ donor. He had that on his license, so you think that's what he definitely would have
Yeah,
wanted
I
to
believe he did. Evan was such a gracious kid. He was just had the biggest heart ever, and just so kind that I think that he would have wanted that.
What does Gift of Life do exactly?
Gift of Life is a organization that is involved with all organ donation. So they get the word out to everybody, and then they facilitate it. So they have coordinators at different hospitals that work with doctors for doing the donation. And there's such huge lists of people waiting for organs. Kidneys are one of the biggest ones. So I got involved with them just because of what we went through. And then where I worked, I had a girl that donated her kidney to her husband's mother. And her husband had received a kidney from somebody he totally didn't know. They had a kidney disease that, they were on dialysis quite a lot, and many years of waiting. So kind of just started chatting with her about it and, hey, what's this all about? They had a friend that needed a kidney. So I reached out to Penn in Philly. So I went and did all the testing and ended up coming out that I was a good candidate. Not for this person because I'm an A positive and he was an O, but I learned about that you can go on a Parrot Exchange as well. So a Parrot Exchange is, say you need something, but you need a kidney, let's say, and you're a different blood type than me, but you may have somebody that wants to donate as well. So I could give mine to them, and they can give theirs. It's kind of like a big kind of circle, and it can really branch out to a lot of different people. So I decided to go forward with that. The person that I was trying to help, that would also help him bump him up the list as well, he was just too sick, and so he was unable to move forward in a timely that it was working for me, because I didn't want to wait too long, because after a year of testing, then you have to be retested, and so it actually did go past a year, and so I had to be retested. But then I ended up moving to Pinnacle in Harrisburg because he moved to there as well. And so there I went through all the testing. Everything was great. And finally we signed papers that I could go ahead and do mine now, and then he could do his at another time. So in February of 2000 and what year are we in? 17. In 17. I went and had my kidney taken out, and it went to a girl in Atlanta in her 20s. So just knowing the amount of time that somebody is on dialysis is like a part-time job. I wouldn't have time to do that. I enjoy my life and what I do, so it's just a tough one that, there's so many people in need, and if you're healthy and you can do it, I say go for it.
And I think you've inspired other people to try to do this as well. So
I have. My wonderful sister Kelly. We're pretty much sidekicks. We're only 15 months apart, and you can guess who's older and who's younger. But she had been by my side with my son and always has been. And she decided to go forward as well after speaking with her husband and praying about it, and decided that this was something she wanted to do as well. So December of last year, she donated her kidney, and hers went to a 50-year-old man, kind of close to Harrisburg area.
So you're also an advocate now for another group, right? Called, is it Donate Life?
Donate Life is all kind of one and the same. Donate Life and Gift of Life, they're all kind of one and the same. Okay. Yeah, so I do speaking engagements where I'll go into a high school or just do tabling, just really trying to get the word out, to check off the box. Yeah. When you die, you don't need them, and there's so many people waiting.
Do you have any message just for people in general about donating organs, or what do you normally tell people when you go into schools or to advocate?
Well, I really just touch on how much Evan impacted me. And everybody impacts everybody on a daily basis, and you don't realize it until it comes to a moment when, you're not going to be able to see them anymore. And just looking at your life and how fulfilling it has always been, and just think of other people that are not, able to do that daily, you give the gift.